Maybe not just after the video.
TTC Pension Plan was built for you by people who know what it's like to do your job. Here's what sets our plan apart. The plan is operated independently for TTC members only, with features designed around the needs of you and your family. Our plan gives you something truly valuable, a guaranteed steady income for life. You can always estimate your pension in advance because it's based on a defined formula, which doesn't change with the ups and downs of the market. This type of plan is called a defined benefit plan, and it's increasingly rare in Canada. Your contributions cover just a small portion of the pension, with more than 80% covered by your employer's contributions and investment growth. With a competitive plan design, including different ways to retire on a full pension and discretionary inflation protection, it all adds up to a strong value, both today and for years to come.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marvin Alfred. I'm the president of the TTC Pension Fund Society, also known as the TTC Pension Plan, or TTCPP. I will be chairing the meeting today. In accordance with the pension plan bylaws, notice of this annual general meeting and proposed plan updates were posted on our website, ttcpp.ca, in our newsletter mailed to all active and retired members in May, and on the TTC and ATU Local 113 websites. Meeting materials, including the agenda, 2025 annual report, 2025 AGM minutes, and bylaw amendments are available on our AGM registration page. I welcome you all to the 65th annual general meeting of the TTC Pension Plan. Before we continue, I would ask the Corporate Secretary, Helen Redmond, to address several housekeeping issues.
Good morning, everyone. Prior to reviewing the housekeeping items, we would first like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. If you have not already found them, the materials for today's meetings are available for you to view and download at the bottom of your screen, below the link that says About the Meeting. Clicking on each item will allow you to download the individual documents for reference. During today's meetings, only the representatives of TTC Pension Plan and the TTC Sick Benefit Association, or SBA, will be able to speak during the meetings. You will have the ability to ask a question at any time throughout the meeting by clicking the Ask a Question link directly underneath the webinar window on your screen. During today's meeting, all submitted questions will be visible to everyone in attendance. For this reason, please do not post any personal information in your question. The moderator will collect the questions and direct them accordingly. We will do our best to answer as many questions as possible that are relevant to today's presentations. Questions of a personal nature or questions unrelated to the administration of the pension plan will be answered separately. After the meeting, we will publish a full list of questions and answers. There will be numerous motions made throughout both AGMs today. Only active members of the TTC Pension Plan and SBA joining us for today's meetings are eligible to vote on these motions and have been assigned voting rights for this meeting. Each motion will appear on screen for anyone watching the webcast, but only eligible voters will be given the opportunity to cast their votes on the motions before them today. There is an option on your screen to expand the webcast window to appear on the full screen rather than a small inset. Please be aware that if you are an active member eligible to vote, you will not see the prompts come up on your screen for voting if you choose to watch the webcast in full screen mode. Please keep the webcast window as an inset so you do not miss the opportunity to cast your votes. The voting results will be subject to an audit and will be verified by myself as Corporate Secretary of the TTC Pension Plan. And finally, if you're experiencing any technical issues, please click on the Contact Support link above the webcast window. If you are experiencing issues with the audio or video throughout the webcast, please click on Alternative Channels below the webcast window. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce the speakers for today. We have with us today Helen Redmond, our Corporate Secretary, Heather Wolf, the CEO, James Clarkson, our Chief Financial Officer, Chief Risk Officer, and Treasurer, and Andy Green, our Chief Investment Officer. I will now introduce the Board of Directors of the Pension Plan. We have with us today TTC Pension Plan Directors Michael Atlas, Steve Anderson, Mario Azzopardi, Angie Clark, Frank Malta, Tony Melio, Shakira Narayan, Anya Shirelli, Dakshin Shanmugana Nagam. We would like to acknowledge Michelle Jones, who retired since our last AGM. Michelle enjoyed a long, successful career and worked with the TTC Pension Plan Board for several years, and we wish her all the best in retirement. On behalf of the board, thank you for attending today's AGM. We'd like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our TTC frontline employees who are essentially keeping the transit system working and moving. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask everyone to hold a moment of silence to acknowledge our active and retired members who passed away over the last year. Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the 64th Annual General Meeting held on June 28, 2025. Are there any questions on the minutes?
For anyone who would like to ask a question, please use the Ask a Question link directly below the webcast window.
Seeing no questions, could active members please cast your vote on the approval of the minutes of the 64th Annual General Meeting? The prompt to vote is located on the right-hand side of the screen next to the webcast window.
Just as a reminder, materials referenced in today's meeting, including a copy of the minutes, are available to view at the bottom of your screen below the link that says About the Meeting. Also, as a reminder, only active TTC Pension Plan members are eligible to vote. Subject to final verification, the minutes of the 64th Annual General Meeting are approved as presented.
Thank you. Serving on the board is something we take seriously because we know how much this plan matters to you. Our role is simple at its core: to make sure that your pension is protected and this plan is run properly. Many of us have spent our careers working directly alongside TTC employees, so we understand what this pension means, not just financially, but in giving you the confidence about your future. This past year, we approved a new 5-year strategic plan. It sets out clear direction to keep the plan strong, trusted, and here for you over the long term. As we look ahead, our focus remains the same: strong governance, responsible oversight, and doing right by our members. That commitment guides every decision that we make. Our CEO, Heather Wolf, and our CIO, Andy Green, will be presenting a plan overview, the financial health of the plan, investment performance, and a review of long-term goals. Following their presentation, James Clarkson, the treasurer of the plan, will present the 2025 annual financial statements and auditor's report. The audited financial statements and auditor's report can be found starting on page 15 of the 2025 annual report, which is available through the About the Meeting link below the webcast window. When the presentations are completed, we will take questions. Once they've been answered, I'll ask for a motion to approve the financial statements. I would now like to introduce TTC Pension Plan CEO Heather Wolf.
Thank you, Marvin, and good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to have an opportunity to address our plan members today. Everything we do starts with our members. You keep this city moving, and you deserve a pension that is stable, well-managed, and built for your long-term security. I want to start by confirming that the TTC Pension Plan is fully funded and in strong financial health. I know that members have questions about this, especially with everything going on in the world today and lots of economic uncertainty. Your pension is safe and secure, and you can be confident that it will be there for you when you retire. We're very proud of the plan's strong financial position, and our goal is to keep your pension secure no matter what happens in the world. Over the past year, we continued strengthening the plan by making thoughtful changes to our investments to improve diversification and reduce risk, and by implementing a new risk management framework, We also developed a new strategy to make sure we're focused on the right things for the future, and I'll share more about that later. For us, delivering on the pension promise goes beyond investment returns. It's about earning your trust, managing the plan responsibly, and making sure you can rely on us, whether you're working or retired. Thank you for the trust you place in us. We're committed to earning it every day. Before I get into more details on our plan, I want to take a step back and talk about how the plan was built over time. Because our pension plan today is the result of decades of steady growth, strong decisions, and a clear focus on serving our members. This plan has been serving TTC employees for over 85 years. We are one of the oldest pension plans of our kind in Ontario. Over that time, the plan has grown alongside the people it serves, from early beginnings and just a handful of members to nearly 30,000 members today. And this year, we reached an important milestone. As of May 2026, the TTC Pension Plan now has over $10 billion in assets, and we're continuing to grow. This growth and success doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of a team who goes the extra mile to make a difference for our members. From late nights on audits to personal caring member support to carefully considered investment decisions, this team gives their best because they genuinely care about the people we serve. I want to personally thank each of my team members for the professionalism and heart you bring to this work every day. This past year, as part of our new strategic plan, we took a fresh look at our mission, vision, and values. What we found is that our mission and vision are still strong. They continue to reflect exactly why we exist and who we serve. But we took the opportunity to recalibrate our values to make sure they really reflect how we show up every day. Our values are simple. We put members at the center of everything we do. We take responsibility for the decisions we make and how we manage the plan. And we work together to deliver the best outcomes for our members. To support our mission and vision, we have a new 5-year strategy. It's focused on 3 things: building trust, making sure the plan is built to last, and continuing to improve how we serve members every day. This is how we make sure we're delivering for you, now and in the future. With that context, I want to focus on something that matters to every plan member: the value of your pension plan. There are 3 key points I want to share with you about why this plan is valuable for you and unique compared to other pension plans. First, this plan is built specifically for you. It's designed around TTC and ATU employees and your careers, with features that reflect how you work and how you retire. These features are things like a normal retirement age of 60, not 65, the inclusion of overtime and service during eligible leaves in your pension calculation, and 4-year best average earnings, not 5 years and not consecutive. This plan was built with you in mind. Second, this is a pension you can count on. It provides guaranteed income for life based on a defined formula. It's designed to stay stable in different market conditions, and that stability allows you to plan your future with confidence. This is called a defined benefit pension plan, and it's increasingly rare in Canada. Third, this plan delivers strong value for members. In our plan, more than 80% of your pension comes from employer contributions and investment growth. The plan also offers stable contribution rates that haven't changed in over 15 years and several ways to retire on a full pension. These 3 factors, built for you, a pension you can count on, and strong value for members, make our plan unique and very valuable. When you compare a plan to others, that value becomes even clearer. Our contribution rates are among the lowest, and our pension formula is among the highest when compared to some of our peer plans. Taken together, this is a plan that delivers real value, both today and in the future. It's important to us that we hear from our members, and we do our best to provide education opportunities and visit members in their locations. We also gather feedback through an annual member survey. This year, we saw a strong response and improvements in our member satisfaction score, but we know there's more we can do. As part of our new strategy, we're looking to improve our service to members and to find better ways to collect and use member feedback. Now I want to share more details on the health of the pension plan. Our actuaries do a valuation of our pension plan every year. This tells us the financial position of the plan, called the funded status. The funded status is determined as the ratio of assets to liabilities, and a funded status above 100% means the plan is fully funded with enough money to pay all pensions earned to date. With smoothed assets of $9.5 billion and liabilities of $8.1 billion at January 1st, 2026, the plan has a very healthy funded status of 117%. That means we have more than enough assets to cover the pensions that have already been earned. Because of our strong funded position, the board determined that it's affordable and appropriate to grant pension enhancements this year. The enhancements include a base year update for active members and a 2% cost of living increase for retirees. 2% is the inflation amount for Canada for the year ending September 30th, 2025, and it's the maximum amount that the Canada Revenue Agency allows us to provide. Pension enhancements are not guaranteed. They're only done when the plan is healthy and it's affordable to grant them. On an annual basis, the board assesses the affordability of pension enhancements and grants them at their discretion. Later in this meeting, the bylaw amendments to document these enhancements will be presented for active member approval. This is great news for plan members. The plan is strong, well managed, and built to support you now and for a lifetime. I will now turn it over to our Chief Investment Officer, Andy Green, to talk about the plan's investments.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, everyone. Over the course of the year, the plan experienced growth and assets increased from $9.2 to $9.7 billion as a result of solid investment performance and contributions. This brings us to an all-time high in terms of the size of our assets. As a result of this size, we are able to achieve economies of scale with a talented team of 10 investment professionals, in addition to access to best-in-class partners in Canada and around the world. Despite a challenging and volatile market, the funded status continues to be strong, and the plan remains fully funded and able to withstand any short-term challenges. Our strong funding policy and results have enabled us to build reserves to provide future updates and keep contribution rates stable. 2025 was another solid year. We earned 7.4% for the year, with longer-term returns of 6% over 5 years and 7.1% over 10 years, all above what we need to keep the plan sustainable. We saw strong contributions from both employers and employees and paid nearly $480 million in benefits. While some asset classes remain challenging, our long-term strategy continues to deliver and keep the plan on track. Our investment approach is designed with the long term in mind. The goal is to reduce the impact of short-term market swings and global uncertainty while keeping the plan on track to meet its pension commitments. The board and the investment team work closely with our actuary to determine the right mix of investments so that we can deliver on the pension promise even when markets are challenging. As you can see in this slide, the portfolio is well diversified across different types of investments, regions, and industry. This helps spread risk and supports more stable, consistent returns over time. At a high level, the portfolio is made up of 3 main asset types: growth assets, such as stocks and private equity, that make up a significant portion of the portfolio and are designed to drive long-term returns and benefit from economic growth. Next, we have fixed income investments, which include both bonds and credit, that help provide a reliable income and also protect the plan from changes in interest rates. Finally, we have real assets, which includes things like real estate and infrastructure that generate reliable income and help protect the plan from inflation. Overall, this balanced and diversified approach helps keep the portfolio strong, resilient, and well-positioned to support our pension promise over the long term. Markets today are being driven by a few key themes that are creating both risk and opportunities. Geopolitics continue to add uncertainty and volatility. At the same time, AI is reshaping industries, creating both strong winners and some losers. In credit, higher interest rates mean there's less margin for error, so being selective is critical. And more broadly, we are in a different environment with higher inflation, higher interest rates, and lower expected returns in the past. All this reinforces the importance of staying diversified, disciplined, and focused on the long term. So the key question is, what do these market themes actually mean for how we manage the portfolio? We look at each theme through three lenses: exposure, risk, and opportunity, not just individually, but across the total portfolio. We are constantly asking ourselves and determining, are we under or overexposed? Are we being properly compensated for the risks we are taking? And do we have the right investment managers and strategies in place to navigate more volatile conditions? Today, the portfolio remains well balanced with no reliance on any single theme. There's a strong focus on manager selection and specialized expertise, and we stay disciplined through regular rebalancing and active risk management. What we are not doing is we're not making investment decisions based on macro geopolitical outcomes. We are not chasing concentrated areas of the market, including some of the more crowded AI-driven trades. And we are continuously reassessing our assumptions rather than relying on past return expectations. Overall, this approach helps us stay resilient and focused on delivering consistent long-term results. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Chief Financial and Risk Officer, James Clarkson.
Thanks, Andy. So as the CFO, CRO, and Treasurer, I take pride in my responsibility for overseeing the financial integrity of the TTC Pension Plan. The strongest way to demonstrate this to our members is to conduct an annual audit of the plan, which is also required by the Pensions Benefit Act and the CRA. TTC Pension Plan uses an independent auditor, KPMG, to review our financial reporting, controls, and compliance. The table that you see on the screen outlines what was audited and what it means to you as a member. KPMG focuses their audit on how we value our investments, the integrity of our financial records, our internal systems and controls, the financial statements, and the compliance of rules and laws. In practical terms, what this means for you as a member is that your pension is presented fairly. There's no material issues that were identified during the course of the audit. There's sufficient controls in place in order to protect the assets in the plan. The financial statements can be relied on, and we are meeting regulatory requirements. So one of the questions that might come up is, how is this communicated by KPMG to members? So the way KPMG does this is through issuing what's called an unqualified or clean audit opinion, and that's included in the annual report package. And what it does is it confirms that the financial statements are fairly presented and free of material misstatements. In terms of the review and the approval steps, the financial statements are first reviewed and detailed by both the Audit and Risk Committee, and then they are approved by the TTC Pension Plan Board before they are presented to the membership today. So the following is an excerpt from the financial statements, which is included in the TTC Pension Plan's annual report, which shows the plan's financial activity for 2025 and also includes 2024 just for comparison purposes. So I wanted to walk you through some of the key numbers from our 2025 financial results. And as a reminder, all figures are in thousands of dollars. So we started the year with $9.2 billion of assets available to pay members. And then to that, we add a number of things that increase assets. So that includes income generated from our investments of $654 million. And then we also collected employee and sponsor matching contributions of $340 million. So if we look at those things in totality, we added just under $1 billion in new assets to the plan. On the other side of the ledger, we paid out $479 million in pension payments, termination payments, and death benefits, and $50 million in investment manager fees and plan administration expenses. The total impact of these payments was $529 million, which leaves us with a net increase of assets of $465 million and an ending balance of $9.7 billion. So just shy of that $10 billion that we achieved later this year. The total increase reflects solid financial returns, and continued financial discipline in how the plan is managed. So at this point, I'd like to pause to answer any questions that have been submitted.
Okay, so we're going to go through the questions that have been asked, and you should all be able to see them on the Q&A panel. So the first question is, has the TTCPP divested from funds such as Palantir that are complicit in genocidal actions against those in Gaza? And if not, why not? And I'm going to ask our CIO, Andy Green, to answer that.
Thank you, Heather. So we do have to take into account Canadian sanctions laws. So currently, Palantir is not on the Canadian sanctions list. We do, however, have a very small position in Palantir, which is invested in our passive investments. So we do not have an active position in Palantir.
Thanks, Andy. Next question. Will TTC Pension Plan allow additional voluntary contributions? If not, why not? Other plans like OMERS encourage members to do additional voluntary contributions. And is there a reason why TTC Pension Plan has not pursued AVCs? We don't allow additional voluntary contributions right now, and we don't have any plans to change that at the moment because we hear very little demand from our members for this option. Adding this feature to the plan can add significant work and complexity. So without much demand from members, the board of directors determined that it doesn't make good financial sense to add this cost to the pension plan at this time. Certainly, if we hear more demand for this from our members, that's a decision that can be revisited. The next question is, does Bill 98 affect our pension? Well, the good news is Bill 98 does not affect the TTC pension plan. However, if the legislation eventually results in changes to TTC hiring practices, employment categories, or workforce structure that could indirectly affect the plan, because our membership contributions and future liabilities are tied to TTC employment, there could be an indirect impact. But at this point, Bill 98 doesn't introduce any changes like that, and there's no impact to the plan's funding, governance, or member benefits. Okay, next question. Will there eventually be a plan member website with unique login that will allow members to access information and change personal information? And if so, then when can we expect it? So I'm going to pass that to Helen Redmond, who leads our member services team.
Thanks, Heather. So the answer is yes. We are currently working on a secure member portal to launch alongside or shortly after our new pension administration software. So we're actively working on that with our selected vendor. It is in progress, and we will share more information with all the members when we get closer to launching information about that portal.
Helen, I think one thing we could add is that it won't be in 2026 that we'll be launching that, because we know that it's a long-term project.
Correct. So news to come probably early 2027 with a better idea of timing.
Okay, the next question. Since our plan's assets currently exceed its long-term liabilities, what is the board's precise policy regarding surplus utilization? Specifically, given that the CPP is reducing its base contribution rate in 2027 without lowering benefits, will our plan consider a similar contribution reduction for active members, or will the surplus be held entirely as a stabilization reserve? I have to say, I love the engagement from our members and the great questions. So we are governed by a funding policy, and that's what determines how we use our surplus, and the board reviews that funding policy every year. So our funding policy states that first, we have to cover earned pensions. Second, we use surplus to provide benefit enhancements. And third, if appropriate, we could use surplus to reduce contributions. We haven't made the decision to do that so far because it's important that we keep that stabilization reserve, as you're calling it, to make sure that we can continue to pay benefit enhancements over the future. So there's no plans to reduce the contribution rates right now. On the other hand, contribution rates could also be increased. But again, we're not looking to change contribution rates because one of our goals is to keep our contribution rates stable for our members. Next question. If on WSIB, what is the employee's responsibility and the employer's responsibility with regards to contributions? Will the employee's membership remain in good standing? Helen, I'm going to ask you to answer this.
Sure. So TTC Pension Plan has a provision that we call a protected leave. which includes periods of leaves of absence while members are collecting long-term disability benefits or WSIB benefits. So really importantly, during periods of protected leaves, plan members are not required to contribute to the pension plan, and your credited service will continue to grow. So there is no requirement when you return that you need to do a repurchase. Your membership is in good standing. Your pension credited service continues to grow. Employers are similarly not required to contribute during this time.
And the last question that I see right now is, how is the 2% incentive to current pension recipients, how will that impact future recipients of the pension? Would this be included in calculations for current contributors at the time for their pension? So no, it is not the same thing. The 2% gets added on to the pensions that are in payment right now. So it increases them by 2% for the rest of the lifetime payments. When an active member retires, their pension gets calculated at the date they retire, at the date they retire based on their earnings and their service at that time. And then future inflationary increases get added once the payments are being made. So I don't see any further questions right now, but we will continue to monitor for questions. And as Helen pointed out, we will publish a list of all the questions and answers. Oh, one more question. What is the pension contribution rate? James?
Yeah, sure. So we have a tiered contribution rate. So it's 9.25% up to the yearly maximum pensionable earnings limit, and then after that it's 10.85 over and above that. So it's a tiered rate, just like any other pension plan.
Okay, we're going to move on now and come back to questions later.
Could active members please cast your vote on the approval of the financial statements and auditor's report? Thank you.
Subject to final verification, the financial statements and auditor's report are approved as presented.
Thank you. The TTC Pension Plan Board has approved several bylaw amendments since our last annual general meeting, and we are requesting membership approval of these bylaws today. At this time, I would ask the Corporate Secretary to provide a brief review of the bylaw amendments prior to asking for questions.
Following bylaw amendments presented today are a result of recent plan updates approved by the board. These bylaw amendments are available below the About the Meeting link at the bottom of your screen. Bylaw 2.01 changes the survivor benefit date from January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026. This means that the reduction factor for the 60% joint and survivor pension will only be applied to pensions earned after January 1st, 2026. This update does not impact members who retired prior to 2026. Bylaws 6.02 and 9.01 changes the base period date from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025. This means a member's best 4 years of earnings used to calculate their pension entitlement and their total credited pension service will now include 2025. A change to the base period date only applies to members who retire on or after January 1, 2026. Bylaw 13.02 provides an ad hoc cost of living adjustment of 2% effective January 1st, 2026 for pensioners who were retired prior to January 1st, 2026. For pensioners joining us today, this increase and a retroactive adjustment will be paid on your August 15th pension payment. If you retired in 2025, your increase will be prorated. In addition to the bylaw amendments required as a result of board-approved benefit improvements, the following additional amendments are recommended. In bylaws 3.01, 3.02, and 3.04, the President and Vice President of the TTC Pension Plan Board will now be called Chair and Vice Chair. In bylaw 3.01, special meetings of the board may be called by the chair of the board or now also by any 3 directors working together. In bylaw 3.04, the treasurer and secretary will continue to be employees of the pension plan, but will no longer be required to be members of the pension plan. The board will also no longer be required to appoint the secretary. In bylaw 10.07, the wording is updated to clarify that both postponed members and active members can elect the income leveling option. In addition, the wording is updated to clarify and correct the reference to another bylaw. The final amendment is in bylaw 15.12, where a new section is added to describe the method of crediting interest to an eligible lump sum payment. We will now pause to take any questions related to these changes.
Are there any questions on the bylaw amendments? Could active members please cast your vote on the approval of the bylaw amendments presented?
Subject to final verification, the bylaw amendments are approved as presented.
Okay, we're going to stop and take some more questions now before the next motion. So next question is, what is the plan or current action to divest from Israel, AI, Epstein, and other morally objectionable projects? So as Andy, our CIO, mentioned earlier, where we do not manage something actively because we're investing in a strategy that tracks an index like the S&P 500, we don't have control and there may be small allocations to that. Where we do manage things actively using our managers, we work with them to make the best decisions for the plan. The next question is, why use private equity funds with the advantage of public equities? And how do you manage liquidity and valuation concerns? And I'm going to ask Andy, the CIO, to answer that.
Thank you. So we do have exposure to private equity. It represents about 10% of the fund. And we very carefully make sure that we have sufficient liquidity in other parts of the portfolio. We do know that public equity has done very well over the last 3 years, but private equity remains a very significant part of the portfolio, and this was driven from the asset liability study that was done by our actuary a few years ago. So although private equity is less liquid than public equity is very concentrated and has been dominated by a handful of names, and private equity tends to be much more diversified and provide a very good complement to public equity. So although not as liquid, we make sure that we keep sufficient liquidity to pay pension and any other cash needs that we may have.
Thanks, Andy. Next question, is pension roughly 60% of your yearly income when you retire? That depends completely on how long you work. The simplest way to think about the pension is it's 2% for every year of service. So if you've worked for 30 years, you've been in the pension plan for 30 years, you might expect to receive 60% of your best 4 years average up to the base year. That includes your CPP, but I'm just making it simple so that you can think about that. But it won't be 60% for someone who hasn't worked for 30 years. So it really depends on your years of service. Next question is, what's the pension's average yield for the last 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years? I'm going to read that as the pension plan's, the asset's investment return. The average annual return over the last 10 years was 7.1%, and we showed that in our slides earlier. We don't have at our fingertips the 20 years and the 30 years. 20 years, I'm just being told, was also 7.1%. And when we publish the answers, we'll get back to you with the 30 years. The next question is, looking at the administration fees, could you explain the increase of roughly 50% in the manager's fees? And I'm going to ask our CFO, James, to answer that.
Sure. No, thank you for that question, and I'm glad that you're taking the time to read the annual report, so that the expenses in the annual report are broken down in much more detail, just for those that are interested. But the fee increase, it wasn't exactly 50%. It was less than that. But generally speaking, there was an increase in the investment management fees, and that's primarily driven by two factors. So the first factor being, as the pension plan assets grow over time, so do the investment manager fees. The investment managers are compensated based on the level of assets that are under management. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The second one is we have some special arrangements with some of our managers. And in this case, they're incented to outperform the benchmark. And we did have a manager this year that materially outperformed the benchmark in terms of their performance. So this is actually a good news story, although you might say fees did increase. The corresponding side to that is that the net asset value also increased much, much more than that. And so, we may be paying the managers more, but we're essentially aligned in terms of what the ultimate outcome is that we're looking for them to achieve.
Thanks, James. I noticed that there's a couple of questions coming through about benefits, things like medical and health benefits. We only manage the TTC pension plan, and so Helen is answering those people in writing about where they can reach out to TTC to get information on benefits. And we don't have anything to do with the benefits, and unfortunately can't answer your questions there. So we'll answer the last few questions, and then we will move on. So next question is, could the plan draft a criteria toward what type of investments they will be involved with? We do publish our investment beliefs on our website, and that's a great place to look at to see how we invest the plan's assets. And then I think the last question I see here is the pension, in your opinion, bulletproof based on the history of the pension earning? If the stock market in the future becomes dire for even a 10-year period, how does that affect the pension for the future recipients? It's a great question, and it's one we think about a lot. You can never say that a pension is bulletproof, but we do everything we can to make it bulletproof. And one of the answers that Andy gave earlier about the fact that we use private equity as well as public equity is for exactly that reason. We build a very diversified portfolio so that if something happens in one area of the markets and one area of the investment portfolio, there's other areas to help shore it up. So while we can't predict the future, we're doing everything we can to be prudent and conservative and be aware that this is people's retirement income. Just looking to see if we have any final questions. Okay, we're going to move on to the appointment of auditors.
Then the next item of business required by the pension plan bylaws is the appointment of auditors of the TTC Pension Plan. I'll ask our treasurer, James Clarkson, to read the next motion that is before the membership.
So it's recommended that KPMG be appointed as auditors for the TTC Pension Plan for the fiscal period January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026.
Could active members please cast your vote on the approval of the auditors for 2026?
Subject to final verification, the appointment of auditors is approved as recommended.
Thank you. Any new or unfinished business before the AGM requires advance notification. In accordance with bylaws 3.10, there were no requests made for this AGM. If you have any additional questions, please submit them using the Ask a Question feature now.
Okay, we have a few more questions here, so we will go back to the questions. So latest one is, once you retire, can you delay the start of your pension? If so, for how long? will it continue to grow until you begin to collect your pension? Helen?
So it's a little bit of a nuanced answer. So when you say if you retire, if you're retiring or stopping work after the age of 50, you can defer or postpone those pension payments until as the latest you can is the year that you turn 71. That is an Income Tax Act rule, not a TTC pension plan rule. So you can delay as long up to age 71. If you leave between age 50 and 60 and you would otherwise be reduced, if your entitlement would be reduced, you can wait until age 60 and then collect your pension at age 60 when it becomes unreduced in our plan. And I'm just double checking if I covered all of that answer. I think that covers it. So the answer is yes, it can be deferred until age 71.
Thanks, Helen. And if you find you have more questions or need clarification, please use the details on the screen. You can contact us by phone, by email. You can make an appointment to come in and see us, whatever works best for you. So the next question is when cashing out a lump sum before 50 years old, what's the main factor affecting the amount you will receive, and what's the lowest possible amount? Well, everybody's amount is different, so we can't answer about lowest possible amount. But when you're cashing out your pension as a lump sum, the goal is to provide you with the value of your pension, so the value of the future stream of payments. That value is determined using factors provided by our actuaries, and the key things that affect the value are interest rates at the time of the calculation, your age, and your pension amount. The next question is, what is the percentage of active number versus non-active? So I think that's members. In our 28,000 members, we have about 18 to 19,000 active members and 10 to 11,000 deferred members. Helen, am I getting that right?
Yes, roughly. It's about 17,000 active and then 11,000 plus between pensioners and then that postponed group that's in between accruing a benefit and collecting a pension.
Okay. Next question. In the case a pensioner passes away, does their spouse get their pension? Helen? In the case a pensioner passes away, whether or not part of their pension continues to their spouse depends on what option they chose at retirement. There's different options. In some cases, the pension continues to the spouse, and in some cases, it doesn't.
I'll just add to that. So at retirement, you make a selection, as Heather said. If when you retire, you have an eligible spouse, you choose a survivor pension for that spouse. So if you pass away before your spouse, then yes, that survivor pension will continue to be paid for your spouse for their lifetime. So currently on our pensioner payroll, which is a little under 11,000 pensioners, I believe, 10, 11,000, we have about 1,000 survivor pensioners, so survivor spouses of pensioners that are currently receiving a monthly pension from us.
Thanks, Helen. The next question is, what percentage of pension investments are allocated to the USA, Canada, and other international markets? Which international markets have the highest investment? Andy.
Okay, so we remain quite geographically diverse for the fund and for diversification reasons, and so we have about 39% of the fund is in the U.S. With about 36% in Canada. Following that, so that's about 75% of the fund is in North America. Closely followed by about 13% of the fund is in Europe. And then we have about a little less than 10% in emerging markets. And so the rest would be spread out places like Japan and Australia. So about 75% North America.
Thank you for all the questions. We're going to wrap up now so that we can stick to timelines for the meetings that we have planned for today. If your question didn't get answered, we will contact you and make sure that you get an answer, and we'll also be publishing the answers to the questions.
After this meeting is adjourned, you are welcome to send questions to TTC Pension Plan staff at the email address shown on the screen, or find a contact link on our website at ttcpp.ca or at the end of the at the end of the report. All right. I'd like to take the opportunity on behalf of the Board of Directors to thank the pension plan staff for all their hard work throughout the year and the membership for their continued support.
Thank you all for submitting your questions this morning. Again, any questions that were submitted that we didn't have time to get to, we will be answering following the meeting, and we will also be publishing all of the questions and answers. I hereby confirm that all voting results from today's meeting have been verified by TTC Pension Plan staff and by myself as the corporate secretary.
Seeing no further business to bring before this meeting, I will ask the membership to vote for adjournment. Could active members please now cast your vote to adjourn the 65th Annual General Meeting of the TTC Pension Plan?
Subject to final verification, this annual general meeting is hereby adjourned.
We thank all those in attendance today for your time. The SBA meeting will commence shortly. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Toronto Transit Commission Sick Benefit Association 65th Annual General Meeting. My name is Kathy Kusheri, and I'm the Secretary of the TTC Sick Benefit Association. I'll be chairing the meeting today. In accordance with the SBA bylaws, notice of the meeting was posted in the notice boards throughout the TTC, and related documents as the agenda were also made available to the members. As required under bylaws 1, Section 10.1, I now declare the 65th Annual General Meeting of the TTC Sick Benefit Association properly constituted. I will now introduce the Board of Directors of the Sick Benefit Association. We have with us today Marvin Alfred, Vice President, Michael Atlas, Nancy Toy, Angie Clark, Frank Malta, and Tony Malio. Before we move on, I wanted to recognize John Iorio, who served on this board for several years as secretary, has officially retired since the last meeting, and wanted to thank John for his service on the board and dedication throughout the years, and we wish him well in his retirement. Before we continue with the meeting, I'll address some housekeeping items. A copy of the material for today's meeting is available for you to view and download. Please take a few moments to open the materials before the meeting begins and as we go through the housekeeping items. Please click on the link at the bottom of the screen that says About the Meeting, and it will redirect you to the agenda and links to the meeting materials. Please note that only representatives of the SBA will be able to speak during the meeting. You may ask questions by clicking the Ask a Question button, and the moderator will collect the questions and direct them accordingly. Please note that only general questions related to the meeting will be answered and responded to. If there's any questions raised of a personal nature, they'll be answered confidentially and directly with the individual outside of this meeting. If you're experiencing any technical issues, there's support available through the contact support link at the top of your screen. Motions will be raised throughout the meeting, and only active members of the SBA are eligible to vote on the motions. Each motion will appear on the screen. For anyone watching the webcast, only eligible voters will be able to cast their vote or motions before them today. So as we go through the agenda today, the first order of business is the reading of the annual general meeting minutes and from June 28th, 2025. Are there any questions regarding the minutes? Okay, doesn't appear to be questions. Could the active members please now vote on the approval of the minutes from the 64th Annual General Meeting of June 28th, 2025? Okay, thank you. Subject to final verification, the minutes of the 64th Annual General Meeting were approved as presented. Second order of business is the annual financial statements and auditor report. Are there any questions regarding the annual financial statements and auditor's report? No questions. Can the active members please now vote on the approval of the annual financial statements and auditor's report? Okay, subject to final verification, the financial statements and auditor reports were approved as presented. We'll now move on to the report of directors. Are there any questions regarding the report of directors? Okay. Can all active members please now vote on the approval of the report of the directors? Okay, subject to final verification, the report of directors was approved as presented. Any amendments to the bylaws and regulations, if any? No. Unfinished business, if any? There is no unfinished business brought forward prior to the meeting. Is there any new business to come before the meeting? So we'll move on to the appointment of the auditors. So the next item of business is the appointment of the auditors of the association for the fiscal period of January 1st to December 31st. It's customary for the treasurer to move such appointments, and it's requested that KPMG be appointed as auditors for this fiscal period of January 1st to December 31st, 2026, if an audit is required by law. Could the active members please vote on the approval of the appointment of the auditors? Okay, subject to final verification, the appointment of the auditor was approved as recommended. On behalf of the directors, I'd like to thank the staff in the association's office and membership for their continued support. If there's no further business to bring to the meeting, I'll ask the membership to vote for adjournment. Could the active members please now vote on the approval of the of the adjournment of the 65th Annual General Meeting? Okay, subject to final verification, the 65th Annual General Meeting is hereby adjourned.